All right, so what would this country look like if we could be more like young people? Our next speaker is a Dorchester native and a BPS alum. That it is critical to inspire a new wave of STEM professionals and considers it his mission to develop a national model to support his idea. In the next talk, we will learn from a passionate educator and visionary about how young people are broadening participation in STEM education. Please welcome to the stage, Director of STEM Programs at the Young People's Project, Cliff Freeman.
So all my punchlines were in that talk. So I just sit down. Cool, so that's me. So at the Young People's Project, we have the privilege of hiring high school and college students to teach computer science and mathematics education workshops. And in these spaces, students have been virtually shut out traditionally and historically. So this is a group of some of them are in the crowd for the last 2 years. This is at MIT across the river. So when the Young People's Project was founded, when it was formed, it was an outgrowth of the Algebra Project. In the Algebra Project, their founder is Bob Moses, a civil rights icon, and he did his work in the Mississippi theater of the civil rights movement with SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And when YPP was formed, it was one possible solution and answer to the question, what and how much do young people have to do with getting education out of Jim Crow in the United States education system? So for the last few years, I became somewhat fascinated with the idea of what it means to be a constitutional person in the 21st century. And what helps me narrow that focus in is a sort of tradition Bob does. If you've ever been to one of Bob's talks, he has the audience recite the preamble of the United States Constitution. So in light of that, I want to invite us into that tradition. This is my first time actually doing this, so some of the words are here. I'm going to recite them. They'll pop up on the screen, and you guys just say it after me. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we the people of the United States.
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 In order to form a more perfect union.
In order to form a more perfect union.
Establish justice.
Establish justice.
Provide for the common defense.
Provide for the common defense.
Promote the general welfare.
Promote the general welfare.
And secure the blessings of liberty.
And secure the blessings of liberty.
To ourselves and our posterity.
To ourselves and our posterity.
Do ordain and establish.
Do ordain and establish.
This Constitution.
This Constitution.
For the United States of America.
For the United States of America.
That was good. So, we're here at the BPS Tech Talk, the first of its kind. And to me, it's, in my opinion, it's an affirmation of the values that we have here, or the organizers of this event, that STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, is one of the values of this body of who put this event on. And at the Young People's Project, we have a position where we basically say, if we plan on broadening participation in STEM in a meaningful way, we must see and involve young people as assets in the design at the very beginning by default. So what I want to do for the last few minutes I'm going to be talking is talk a little bit about how young people throughout this country's, as young people throughout the country have been doing things to move the needle on quality computer science and mathematics education. So this is a picture of young people in the 90s, and they decided they wanted to start an organization. And this is a few 20-year-olds and 8th graders, basically children, and they were all former Algebra Project students. And they wanted to start an organization where they would hire young people that looked like them to teach mathematics in communities that they lived in. So in 1996, those young people, children, started an organization, and they called it the Young People's Project. So while all this was happening in 1996, I was 3 years old, so I wasn't a part of this group. I'm not more than 27 years old. So I wasn't a part of this group. And so this was me in around first and second grade. When I started at the Sarah Greenwood School in Boston, Mass. It's a K through 8. And I wouldn't start kindergarten, until then. So I'm a BPS alum, and so there's one of my teachers here, Beth, she's in the crowd. She's probably so excited that I'm doing this. So I graduated at 8th grade in 2008, and then I went on to high school, and I graduated from New Mission High School when it was still in Mission Hill. That's actually where Fenway High is now. And I graduated in 2012, and I decided I wanted to go to college and pick a major that I was going to struggle through for 4 years. So I got a bachelor's in computer information systems in 2016, and then I decided I was going to struggle again in my master's program. So I obtained a Master's of Science in Technology Management in 18, so I struggled 2 times. But that wasn't where I actually started my journey into computer science or into STEM discipline. It was in the 10th grade when my friend, one of my friends are actually here, who our other friend invited us. He said, well, hey, you guys need jobs? And as any 10th grader would, they'll say or she'll say, how much you pay? And so we checked it out and we decided to stay. The price was right. So we stayed. I am far. Oh no, we're still good. So I started working at the Young People's Project in the 10th grade as a STEM literacy worker. And so I worked at the Young People's Project throughout high school and into college because my friends and I, my peers and I, we found great success and joy in doing the work of the Young People's Project as the young people in the 90s and 96 strategized and thought about when they thought about the reach of YPP. So we were actually teaching young people, hundreds of young people in our neighborhood, how to do math and not to be afraid of math when they come in contact with it. So it was rewarding, and we were chipping away at something that was really important. So in 2017, the Young People's Project entered into a partnership with Excel High School. And Excel High School has a lot of history, if you don't know it. Its former name was South Boston High. My mom actually went my mom went to South Boston High. My aunt as well went to South Boston High. So there's a lot of history there. You should look it up if you don't know. Google it. So in 2017, we entered into a partnership where we were on the hook to figure out how we were going to do an elective course where we integrated mathematics and computer science. And in this course, it's simple. So in the 9th grade, students will basically for 180 days a year, 5 days a week, they will come to a class and learn computer science and mathematics. And so for the first half of the year, the Young People's Project would hire college students in the STEM disciplines, either applied math, computer science, biomedical, and they will come into the classroom during the school day in a facilitative role to teach computer science and mathematics. They will dump and pour education into these students. So you can see some of the college students pouring the information into the young people. And for the second half of the year, the high school students, who we call STEM literacy workers, they would become masterful at designing and putting on coding boot camps for middle schoolers, in which we ask every middle school that is close to us and far from us, we send buses to their schools, and then we bring them in to South Boston High, and we teach as many as we can. And for about 2 or 3 months. So since 2017, we have upgraded our cohorts to 3 cohorts. So first we started with 9th grade, and for 3 years we added 1 9th grade course each year. So there's a 9th, and there's a 10th, and there's 11th grade. And since then, we've taught more than 2,000, the young people have taught more than 2,000 young people in their neighborhoods how to code and understand and do math in a way that they haven't done before. So that's what my fascination is about when I talk about, we the people who are the constitutional people, because our Constitution It permits us to mold this country into one that works for anyone who calls it their home. And I'm gonna finish this, because I know I'm the only thing standing between you and food outside. So I'm gonna do this really quickly. The organizers are gonna hate me for this, but I wanna call the young people from the Young People's Project to come stand with me really quickly so we can finish this, because it's we the people, not I, Cliff, the Cliff. Someone inside, from inside. I texted them earlier, it was supposed to be 10 seconds. So we gotta work on that. So if we look at the different movements that popped up in this country's existence, and even 100 years before this country's existence until today, there were always groups of people that made demands to change the status quo. And usually, what happens when those people make those demands, they're met by opposition. And opposition basically says, you guys don't really need those things that you're demanding. And usually, that's probably not true. So as we know, so the first YPP, as referenced in Bob's radical equations, from the insurgent groups of enslaved Africans who decided they wanted to take off to own themselves, the plantation owners were saying, you don't want to be free. You're just fine where you are. No, they ran anyway. There's a new movie out called Harriet. To the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and when they were in Mississippi registering ordinary Mississippians to vote, black Mississippians to vote, state officials said, why are you taking illiterates down to vote? They don't want to do that. They don't know how to vote. Well, they vote. They did. They even created political parties. And to the Young People's Project in the 90s, a group of young people, 8th graders, younger than you all, decided they wanted to start an organization in mathematics to change the status quo for the math literacy for the young people in their neighborhoods. And the naysayers, the people in opposition, onlooking, probably thought, this is a cute organization, nice mission, but I don't know how it's gonna last forever. It's ran by young people. But 20-something years later, we have young people here in Boston and more around the country. They grew this organization to a national one, where they're teaching thousands of young people on how to do mathematics and computer science in the 21st century. And as my mic drop said earlier, what would this country be? What would it look like? And what would it even do if we, as adults, were more like them? Thanks.